Greetings and welcome back to 50 Shades of Beige. Well, as you can tell, we have a slight change of scenery here. That's because it's the night before Thanksgiving. I have family visiting, and I've been relegated to the garage. And I wanted to kind of show you guys this computer that I got that I'm very grateful for. I actually picked it up for free, believe it or not. It was 100% free. It's extremely dusty, so I wanted to get it blown out, maybe put some new thermal paste on it and see if we can get this thing to boot up for us. It is an iBuyPower machine, so probably something from Best Buy. Pretty straightforward. It's got tempered glass on the front, tempered glass on both sides for some reason. I don't know why you'd want tempered glass side panel on the back side, but they have it. So let's go ahead and get this thing blown out here and see what we're working with. Alright, so our GPU appears to be a MSI Armor 4 gig RX 580, so nothing to write home about there. This is definitely a couple years old. We've got two 4 gig sticks of DDR4 3000 on an A320M motherboard, so I'm going to assume whatever CPU's down there is first gen Ryzen, but that's alright. Once again, free is free, and to be honest, as somebody who does dumpster diving for office PCs, this is actually prime pickings. Definitely some potential for jankery here as well. So let's go ahead and get this thing upstairs. We'll power it up, see if she boots, and if it does, we'll do a little bit more refurbishment, maybe clean these fans up a little bit better. Alright, it is late at night. I went ahead and snuck this computer back upstairs, mostly because I want to repaste it and have a look at a few things. I did notice there is a label on the back here. So this is an iBuyPower i-Series M328IV21, and it looks like it was made June 22nd, 2018. So actually a little bit older than I thought, but it makes sense given the parts that are installed here. I also noticed a few SATA cables plugged in down here, so I'm thinking we probably have a hard disk on the backside somewhere. We'll have a look at that in just a minute. In the meantime, I'm gonna go ahead and pull this GPU out, take our CPU cooler off, see what kind of CPU we're working with, and get everything repasted. I did make sure that the power supply was running all the right voltages, so we're good there. All right, so first things first, we'll get our CPU cooler off. Looks like this is a classic flip job. There we go. The cheapest of the cheap deep cool there. Boy, they just barely got enough thermal paste on there. Luckily, it's still pretty damp, which is good. It's better than it's more than I can say for our pals at Dell. Ooh, we got ourselves a nice one, boys. A Ryzen 7 1800X. This was the top first-gen consumer Ryzen CPU on the Zen 1 platform there. That's fantastic. I really could not have made out better. I think it's a real shame that this really great CPU is stuck on an A320 motherboard. It's got to be, the VRM has to be choking it off, right? There's just no doubt in my mind. So we'll probably end up transplanting this into something else, but for now we just want to see if everything works, so we're going to continue as planned. Let's see what we've got for thermal paste. I know I've got some laying around here somewhere. Today we're using Wakingyung Heat Conduction Expert LED CPU cooler. In case you were wondering, this is special just for your LED CPU cooler. not for use with non-LED CPU coolers. Obviously, if I was going to sell this PC, I would use more thermal paste, and I would definitely be using Arctic MX4, not whatever that garbage is. So don't yell at me in the comments. Well, you can yell at me if you want to, but I already know what I already know. Oh, come on out of there. There we go. There's our MSI Ventus RX 580, as I mentioned earlier. Really nothing to write home about. This is a perfectly fine card. Unfortunately, it's the 4 gig version. But yeah, the Ventus is basically just a reference board with a real basic cooler on it. It'll do fine though. But we'll check and see. If the pads look like they're falling apart, I'll also replace the thermal pads, but I don't suspect that that's going to be an issue. All right, here we go. Not too bad. Definitely some excess thermal paste that's starting to harden there. All right, we don't have a lot of dust in the fans or anything like that because we already blew that out. So I'm actually gonna go ahead. I'm gonna leave that like it is. We'll just do the quick rub-a-dub. Yeah, that stuff came off a little crusty. And this time I do have Arctic MX4 because this card is going to go to somebody else when I'm done. I might just give this away. 4 gig RX 580 probably means more to somebody in need, or maybe a kid who's just getting started in gaming or something like that, than it does to me. There we go. That's probably way too much, which is perfect. Give me that sticky. Alright, I'll lay this puppy back down. Flip it over. By the way, for the record, this is not a tutorial on how to repaste your GPU. Do as I say, not as I do, as always here at 50 Shades of Beige. That means using an anti-static mat and or wrist strap. And normally you'd want to torque those down in sequence, not just one right after the other. Give this a quick pat down on the back side so it's not so dusty. Looking good on the GPU side of things. Let's go ahead and fire this thing up and see if it even works. Alright, here's our moment of truth for the free iBuyPower PC. Let's see if it'll fire up for us. There we go. Looking good so far. Let's have a quick look at the BIOS. Pardon my mess here a little bit. Oh, it looks like our mouse isn't working. Looks like our keyboard's not working either. We do have a A320M VD Plus motherboard, pretty basic, along with our Ryzen 7 1800X. That's 8 cores, 16 threads. BIOS build date is from 2018, so that kind of adds up with what we were looking at there. iBuyPower didn't set the RAM profile up properly. We'll have to take a look at that, but so far, so good. I think we're onto something here. But I am a little concerned about why those USB ports aren't working. I have power to my mouse. It's just not doing anything. So yeah, a little bit more diagnosis is in order, and then we'll see what we're going to do with this PC. So we got a quick change in pace here because it's basically like 1 o'clock in the morning on Thanksgiving morning. But I was laying in bed and I had this idea. Since our iBuyPower machine with its Ryzen 1800X is undoubtedly being throttled by the piss poor VRM on that A320M motherboard that they chose for it, I decided to swap out the motherboard in there It makes more sense anyway because that case is a full-size ATX case, so it's like, why wouldn't you want all the things that come along with a full-size ATX motherboard? So I pulled out this B350 Tomahawk from MSI. This is a really popular board from its time, and it's perfect for our 1800X. In fact, I would say they're really meant for each other in a sense. Some of you might remember this board. I used it when we did our quote-unquote worst AM4 CPU build. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and reuse it here today. If I can get this cooler off. This particular cooler was absolutely hellacious to get on and off, if I remember correctly. I hate these lever systems, they're terrible. There we go. Whew, that's a lot of tension. And there's our 1800X. Go ahead and give that a quick wipe down there. Now let's talk coolers. If you remember, the iBuyPower machine has this pretty pedestrian kind of Athlon cooler. However, I do have a OEM stealth cooler here, and I know for an 1800X you probably want a little more than this even. However, this kind of keeps us in our budget range. This gives us just a little bit more surface area to work with, so it won't saturate so quickly, and a considerably larger fan. So we're going to go ahead and roll with that for tonight. And I was able to find some free thermal compound from another cooler. So this is just soft pack heatsink compound. I somehow managed to lose my scissors, so instead we're going to use some wire cutters. Because why not? There we go. I'm going to give this the old squirty McSquirterson here. Ooh, oh no, I don't know how I feel about that. That's like milky. Nobody likes milky. Look at this shit. No, I don't know. I don't like that at all. I think I'm going to take that off. Let's find some Arctic MX4. I don't care much for that. That looks like, I don't know, but it doesn't look like thermal compound. It's really runny. If it wasn't so runny, I would be less suspect of it, but that just tells me it's been sitting in the pack for a long time and it might have separated. Just overall, not a good time. All right, here's our MX4. We got way too much, which is perfect. Now, I wasn't going to film this part. I just had a couple of quick notes for this iBuyPower machine if you are going to do a swap like this in one of their cases. So first of all, these standoffs are not permanent. They can be unscrewed, which is nice, but you have to bear in mind like where they're located because you might need to relocate some of them, and or you might not have enough. They used multiple different kinds of screws, well, screws with different heads on them anyway, to install the motherboard. So if you look here, there's one. That's not a standard motherboard screw. Here's another one with a more rounded head on it. There we go. And here's another one that is a standard motherboard screw, and all of them were screwed in so tight that I had to break out a bigger screwdriver. So you're going to want something bigger than this in order to get those screws out. They're clearly using, you know, a drill or something like that to get the screws in quickly, and that could be a problem for your average PC enjoyer. Alright, let's go ahead and get our new motherboard in and see how it looks. Just a couple more things on the case front of things. So when you have a motherboard like this MSI board, it's got this USB connector pointing out at a right-hand angle. Unfortunately, because of the limited cable routing options on this case, I actually can't fit my connector in here without kinking it really hard and possibly ruining this connector, so I'm going to leave that off. Had similar issues with the SATA ports and similar issues with audio. So even though this case technically does fit a full-size ATX motherboard, it's almost like they designed the case to be full ATX but only fit an MATX motherboard, because there's just no cable management for full-size ATX in here. It's wild. I'm surprised at how tight and kind of put together the cable management is here. It's really hard to work with. So just things to keep in mind if you're going to work on an iBuyPower PC. Alright, and that's going to wrap it up for today. A few things of note. I still have some cable management to kind of fix up here. We need to update the BIOS on this older motherboard. I need to work out how to get the HD audio cable down through here, because there's literally no space between the basement down here and the foot of the motherboard down there at the bottom. So I'll have to get that type of stuff worked out before I consider flipping this machine. I did run it, and it basically fell within tolerance for the specs that we have here, which I'm really happy about. I did not test before we swapped the motherboard out, which I should have thought of doing. However, I am confident that our 1800X is going to be able to stretch its legs much better than it would have on that cruddy little A320 motherboard that was on there. So yeah, let me know if you'd like to see more on this machine. Maybe you want to see the finished product, or you want to see some benchmarks. If so, leave that down in the comments. If not, be sure to stay tuned, because we have a live stream coming up tomorrow for Black Friday deals. That'll be featuring Devin Does Tech. So check the link in the description and keep an eye on my community page for that. That's 3 p.m. Mountain Time tomorrow, Black Friday live stream. I hope to see you there. In the meantime, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you soon.